Shocking news from Hollywood this weekend. Actor Paul Walker, who began acting as a child, then starring in the Fast and Furious films, dying in a car crash.
Paul Walker. He refused to marry the mother of his child. He admitted to sleeping around, even with her friends. His own family said he dated multiple women at once and never labeled anything. But here's the twist. This same man secretly gave $3.5 million to charity, flew to Haiti with chainsaws and medical kits, and bought a $9,000 engagement ring for a struggling veteran couple. The guy who couldn't commit to one person somehow committed to saving thousands. The man behind Fast and Furious had a life way more complicated than any movie script. Paul Walker was born on September 12, 1973, in Glendale, California, weighing just over 7 pounds. His dad worked as a construction foreman, making about $45,000 a year, and his mom had once walked the runways of Los Angeles in the 60s. They lived in a modest 1,200-square-foot house tucked into Glen Oaks Canyon, raising Paul and his 4 siblings on simple routines and tight budgets. At just 4 years old, Paul fell in love with the ocean during a family camping trip to Leo Carrillo Beach. He didn't want to leave the sand. That trip changed something in him. Every month, the Walkers returned to the shore, scraping together $50 each time, because they saw how much it lit him up. 2 years later, everything changed. A scout spotted toddler Paul throwing a tantrum at a Toys R Us in Glendale. 2 weeks later, he was crawling across a living room in a National Pampers commercial. The job paid $5,000, nearly $27,000 in today's money, and opened a floodgate. By age 10, he'd done over 200 commercials and earned $180,000 for his family. California law only required them to save 15% of it, so the rest went into paying off their house. It sounds surreal, but for the Walkers, this was survival wrapped in stardom. Then came the soaps. At just 10, Paul landed a role on The Young and the Restless. He made $1,500 per episode, playing the adopted son of a rock star. But behind the cameras, his world was falling apart. His parents' marriage cracked under the weight of money fights and career disagreements. They split in 1985. His dad moved out. Paul stayed with his mom and siblings in a cramped apartment on Riverside Drive that cost $675 a month. He missed filming days. Crew members saw his bright smile dim. The same month his character was written off the show, the divorce was finalized. By high school, Paul hit pause. He enrolled at Village Christian School in 1987 and disappeared from acting for 3 years. He dove into marine biology, spent his lunch breaks dissecting squid, and won 3rd place in a junior surf competition with an 8.7 score. In his yearbook, he wrote, "I'd rather protect 1 seal than sign 1 autograph." No one knew he had already applied for 5 ranger jobs with the National Park Service, chasing a life that paid $28,240 a year. Not red carpets, just reefs and quiet coastlines. After graduation in 1991, Paul worked at Domino's delivering pizzas in his mom's old Honda, earning about $340 a week. But side gigs called. He modeled for Teen Beat and landed a GQ spread titled California Boys that paid him $2,500. That same summer, a massive storm rolled into Zuma Beach. Paul paddled out anyway, chasing waves that reached 12 feet. A riptide yanked him out 200 yards. He nearly drowned. A lifeguard pulled him out after 7 terrifying minutes. Paul blacked out. When he woke up, coughing up seawater, he wasn't scared. He was obsessed. 2 weeks later, he got certified as a scuba diver. His first dive went 60 feet down, off Catalina Island. That fall, he enrolled at Cal State Long Beach. Marine biology was still the dream. But money and Hollywood tugged harder. He modeled for catalogs, booked $800 gigs, and kept those marine textbooks even after dropping out in 1993. Years later, on movie sets, he'd still flip through them between takes. In secret, He started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 2004, showing up for 6 a.m. workouts 3 times a week. No red carpet stories, just mats and bruises and discipline that no one saw. Then Disney came calling. In 1998, Paul starred in Meet the Deedles, earning $150,000. The film bombed, but Paul, ever the risk-taker, insisted on doing his own jet ski stunts and almost broke his ankle in one take. Insurance panicked. He shrugged it off. A year later, in Varsity Blues, he was cast as the backup quarterback. The accent? All wrong. The director hated it. So Paul disappeared on weekends, hung around Texas high schools, recorded kids talking, and paid a speech coach $50 an hour. He got it right. Nobody knew he had never played organized football before that shoot. By 2000, things got darker. He starred in The Skulls, a thriller about secret societies. Preparing for the role, Paul interviewed real fraternity members and uncovered twisted stories, mock drownings, sleep torture, psychological abuse. He took those stories to heart, especially during the pool initiation scene. He refused a stunt double, demanded real submersion. Each take left him shaken, breathless. But he said it felt honest. For Black Hawk Down, he trained for 4 weeks at Fort Benning. Most actors tapped out during the 48-hour no-sleep drills. Paul didn't. He marched through the Moroccan desert carrying 60-pound gear in 110-degree heat. He dropped 12 pounds during prep. Years later, those same survival skills would surface again. Not on a set, but in Haiti. In 2001, The Fast and the Furious changed everything. Walker's performance as undercover cop Brian O'Connor helped the film make over $207 million worldwide. He only made $1 million for that first movie. He made the same for the sequel. But when the franchise exploded, so did his paycheck. $7 million by 2009, $15 million each for the next 3 films. Yet instead of blowing it on yachts or mansions, Paul funded shark research, quietly donated to marine conservation, and refused to talk about it. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing purpose. In 2010, he joined a National Geographic team to tag great white sharks off the coast of Mexico. It wasn't staged. He was hauling 2,000-pound predators into cradles, drawing blood samples, and wiring tracking devices, all while trying to keep them alive. He loved it. He once said, "There are things more alien in the ocean than in space." He believed that. In 2003, Paul Walker stepped into the spotlight without Vin Diesel in Too Fast, Too Furious, and the world watched to see if Brian O'Connor could carry a movie on his own. The answer came fast: $236.4 million worldwide. But numbers weren't the only thing moving fast. Director John Singleton didn't just want car chases. He wanted grit, sweat, and technique. Walker was pushed into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training with Ricardo Franginha Miller, and it wasn't just for show. In the interrogation scenes, you could see it. Real grappling, not choreographed fluff. He'd been training at Paragon Academy since 2001, eventually earning his brown belt. The highway chase sequence? That wasn't all camera tricks. Walker hit 120 m/s in real takes. He even helped tweak the specs of the iconic Nissan Skyline GT-R R34 himself. When you saw Brian slide around a corner or slam a perp, it was Walker, fueled by passion, precision, and pure horsepower. 2 years later, the ocean became his playground in Into the Blue. Jared Cole wasn't just a role. It was Walker channeling his childhood obsession with marine life. To prepare, he went through advanced scuba certification and then completed over 130 dives during filming in the Bahamas. He wasn't acting when he named coral species or free dived to 60 feet holding his breath for over 2 minutes. That was real. So was the chemistry with co-star Jessica Alba. They did nearly half their underwater stunts without doubles. And when the cameras stopped rolling, Walker didn't. He spent breaks on beach cleanups, worked with local biologists, and dropped $20,000 of his own money into coral restoration. Every shot of him gliding through turquoise waters felt real because it was. He didn't just play a diver, he became one. Then came Tokyo Drift, and while Walker didn't headline it, his fingerprints were all over the frame. 2 days. That's all he spent on set for his surprise cameo. But behind the scenes, he was still steering the franchise. From calls with director Justin Lin to technical consultations about suspension setups, he helped shape the film's authenticity. He pushed for importing real Nissan Silvia S15s from Japan, even though they were illegal in the US, and tapped into his network of Japanese tuning shops to make it happen. He even reviewed parts of the script to make sure Brian O'Connor's character would stay on course in the films to follow. And his paycheck for that cameo? Quietly donated to disaster relief. Tokyo Drift pulled in $158.5 million and, with Walker's help, kept the engine of the franchise running even in his physical absence. Not long after, 8 Below gave Walker a different kind of partner, Sled Dogs. Based on a real 1958 Antarctic expedition, it wasn't a film about speed, but loyalty, survival, and quiet strength. Before cameras rolled, Walker trained with the Huskies for 3 months, refusing to use doubles for the animal scenes. He bonded with them so closely that he adopted 2, Ty and Miska, bringing them home to California. He later donated $47,000 to the Iditarod organization and quietly paid for medical treatments for aging sled dogs, something that only came to light after his death. On set in Alaska, temperatures dropped to 40 degrees Celsius, and while others ran to heated trailers, Walker stayed outside, side by side with the dogs. When one husky got frostbite, it was Walker who paid for emergency care. The film grossed $120.5 million, but its legacy lived in the warmth between a man and his team of silent, frost-covered companions. Then came The Death and Life of Bobby Z, a gritty 2007 thriller with a $12 million budget and no glossy franchise safety net. Walker played Tim Kearney, a former Marine dragged into a world of mistaken identities and prison brawls. This was his playground now, a stripped-down, low-budget arena where his martial arts training could take the spotlight. He'd been studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 6 years and brought that knowledge into every scene. In one fight, he coached Lawrence Fishburne on grappling techniques, making sure every hold and guard pass looked real. Walker didn't want flashy, he wanted true. He even surfed his own waves, doing all the board work himself, despite the production's tight budget. The movie only made $6.4 million in theaters, but that never bothered him. This wasn't about box office anymore. It was about craft, about pushing limits, about finding something honest in the chaos. By 2006, Walker's work off-screen was just as intense. Always Evolving wasn't a slogan. It was a shop, a real one, co-founded with Roger Rodas. Hidden behind that name was a dream garage of 30-plus cars, Ferraris, Mustangs, Porsches, and a string of Skylines that made fans drool. A 1970 Boss 302, a BMW M1, even a rare Volvo P1800. He didn't just own them, he modified, tuned, and tested them. Matt Farah once toured the collection and kept it secret until Walker's death. After the crash in 2013, legal battles broke out over ownership, with Walker's father claiming his son owned a large chunk. The shop had been more than a business. It was a sanctuary, a lab, a second skin. He didn't buy cars to show off. He bought them to feel alive. Then came Fast and Furious in 2009, the moment that brought it all roaring back. Released on April 3rd, the reunion with Vin Diesel shattered expectations with $72.5 million in its opening weekend alone, blowing past the entire domestic run of Tokyo Drift. It closed with $360.4 million worldwide, the highest in the franchise at the time. Critics were lukewarm, but audiences didn't care. They came for the cars, the stunts, the energy, and for Brian O'Connor. Walker was back in the FBI jacket, racing through 240 custom-built cars in a storyline that gave him emotional weight and purpose. It wasn't just about going fast anymore. It was about vengeance, trust, and the deepening bond with Dom Toretto. And at the heart of it all was Walker, steady hands on the wheel, always moving forward. Even in films like Takers in 2010, he refused to coast. Playing a clean-cut bank robber, Walker dove into the world of armored car heists, showcasing sharp precision and criminal swagger. Critics weren't kind. Some said he looked like he was reading off cue cards, but Walker stayed unshaken. He wasn't trying to be a thespian. He was showing another side, another layer. The $25 million central heist was slick, stylized, and packed with tension. With every rooftop chase and shotgun blast, he proved that even outside the Fast universe, he could still make you lean forward in your seat. Fast 5 changed everything for Paul Walker. The movie opened with $86.2 million in the US and ended up making $626.1 million worldwide. For the first time, he wasn't just the pretty boy cop with a fast car. He became the mastermind behind an international heist, tearing through the streets of Rio with a team that felt more like family than criminals. He wasn't faking the physical stuff either. Behind the scenes, Paul was quietly earning his brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, training under Ricardo Franginha Miller in California. He was serious about it, the kind of serious where he'd roll on the mats in the morning and be on a film set by afternoon. That training bled into the fight scenes, into the way he moved. You could feel it. Forbes even named him the 6th highest-grossing actor of 2013. That's how big Fast 5 was. Then came something quieter, riskier, Vehicle 19. Paul went from Hollywood sets to the streets of Johannesburg, South Africa, for a 95-minute low-budget thriller where he barely left the driver's seat. He was in nearly every frame, driving through real locations, doing stunts himself, even crashing a car into a supermarket window. No big teams, no safety net. He wanted the rawness. He was also the executive producer, shaping the film from start to finish. Director Mukunda Michael Dewell said filming there gave them more freedom than LA ever could. Paul didn't just want another paycheck. He wanted control. He wanted challenge. And then came hours. No cars, no explosions. Just a father stuck in a flooded New Orleans hospital during Hurricane Katrina, hand-cranking a ventilator to keep his premature daughter alive. Paul was in every single scene. No trailer breaks, no glam. Just long days, tough shots, and emotional weight. He told interviewers it was the hardest role he'd ever done. Harder than anything else. The film premiered at South by Southwest in March 2013. It hit theaters on December 13th. Paul never saw it. He died just 2 weeks earlier, on November 30th. Fast and Furious 6 came in like a storm. $789 million worldwide, nearly $240 million of that from the US. But for Paul, it wasn't about money. Not really. His character, Brian, was becoming a dad. And so was he. In 2011, Paul brought his daughter Meadow to live with him full-time in California. The emotional weight of that shift bled into the film. Behind the scenes, he was giving Vin Diesel parenting advice, telling him to cut the cord at birth because it'll be the best day of your life. He became godfather to Diesel's children. It wasn't a role. It was real life, reflected on screen. Then, the unthinkable happened. Paul was gone. Halfway through filming Furious 7, production froze. Everything stopped. When it resumed, they had to reimagine the film, not just finish it, but honor him. His brothers, Cody and Caleb, stepped in. They weren't actors. They weren't trying to be. But with help from acting coaches, motion capture, and careful lighting, they carried Paul's presence to the finish line. Visual effects from Peter Jackson's Weta Digital digitally recreated his face in scenes he never got to finish. The final montage wasn't just a goodbye in the movie, it was a goodbye to the man himself. And audiences felt that. Furious 7 made $1.15 billion. It reached $1 billion in just 17 days. Paul didn't just leave behind a film. He left behind one of the most emotional farewells in cinema history. But behind all that fame and box office, something quieter was always working in the background. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He started in 2004 at age 31. Most people that age are winding down their physical careers. Paul was just getting started. He trained hard, not because it was trendy, but because it grounded him. Ricardo Miller, his instructor, told him there'd be no special treatment, no celebrity black belt. Paul smiled and said, "Then I'll get it in my coffin." And he did. After his death, Miller posthumously awarded Paul his black belt, presenting it to his father at the memorial. That belt wasn't just fabric, it was nearly 10 years of sweat, matte burns, and humility. He was the blue-eyed action star everyone admired, the heart of a billion-dollar franchise, the guy who always seemed just a little too perfect to be real. But behind the charm and the California sunshine smile was a private life that didn't quite match the poster boy image. In 2006, Paul Walker, 33 at the time, quietly started dating Jasmine Pilchard Gosnell. She was 16. They kept things low profile, living together in Santa Barbara, while the world stayed focused on his box office returns. The law in California said it was legal, but that didn't stop the whispers. A 17-year age gap is the kind of thing people don't forget. And when Paul died in that crash on November 30th, 2013, just before his charity event, Jasmine was the one who broke the news to his daughter Meadow. But Jasmine wasn't the only teenage girlfriend in Walker's past. Years earlier, in 2001, he was reportedly involved with Aubriana Atwell, who was also 16 when their on-and-off relationship began. Some say they lived together in Santa Monica and Santa Barbara. Others point out photos from that same year showing him with another girlfriend, Bliss Ellis, outside a hotel in New York. The timelines never quite line up, and the internet hasn't stopped speculating about whether he had other similar relationships, especially during his rise to fame in the late 90s. Nothing's been fully proven, but the stories have stained the legacy he left behind. Despite being in long-term relationships, Paul Walker never got married. The closest he came was with Rebecca Sotros. They were both in their early 20s when she got pregnant in 1998. His mom wanted him to settle down, but Paul wasn't interested. He admitted it himself. He wasn't ready. He was still partying, still sleeping around, even with Rebecca's friends. Their daughter Meadow was born in November that year, and Rebecca moved to Hawaii to raise her alone, while Paul stayed in California. Years later, in 2011, Meadow moved in with her father full-time. It seemed like he was finally stepping up, finally figuring out how to be a dad. When he died in 2013, the internet exploded with theories. Some said the government was involved, others blamed the Illuminati, jealous lovers, or even other actors. There were even rumors that he faked his death and went into witness protection. But the official investigation told a simpler story. He and his friend Roger Rodas were speeding between 81 to 94 mph in a 45 zone when their Porsche Carrera GT slammed into a light pole and trees. The tires were more than 9 years old. They died on impact. It was brutal, but it wasn't a conspiracy. His avoidance of commitment had deeper roots than just Hollywood lifestyle. His parents had a messy relationship. His mom, Cheryl, was a model. His dad, a former boxer and sewer contractor. They split after 30 turbulent years, separating quietly around 2002 when Paul was 29. The divorce papers came years later, but the damage had already been done. His friends said it left scars, Even though he was raised in a strict Christian household, the kind with family dinners and high expectations, Paul struggled to find stability. That chaos at home became a blueprint he never quite escaped. He admitted he didn't want to be tied down. Not emotionally, not publicly. In the I Am Paul Walker documentary, his friends and family laid it all bare. He dated multiple women at once, never really labeling anything. Even when he was with someone seriously, he still kept others close. It wasn't about disrespect, they said. It was just who he was. He wasn't built for the traditional stuff. He didn't want the spotlight on his love life. He wanted to be out on a boat, in the jungle, diving with sharks, disappearing from the fame whenever he could. But there was another side to him, one the tabloids didn't bother writing about. In 2010, he saw the devastation in Haiti and didn't wait for a red carpet fundraiser. He self-funded a flight, packed chainsaws, medical kits, and flew down with a team of EMTs and engineers. No PR team, no entourage, just action. He started Reach Out worldwide that year, a rapid response relief group that didn't rely on celebrity donations or red carpets. He joined over 15 disaster missions himself before his death, always hands-on, always first in, never needing a camera around. He showed up in Tuscaloosa in 2011 after an EF4 tornado wiped out neighborhoods. No one recognized him at first. For 3 days, he built shelters and moved rubble. When the press finally found him, he refused to go on camera. Instead, he paid $15,000 out of pocket for building materials when supplies ran dry. When he left town, he didn't take a bow. He just left a note. Years earlier, in 2004, he overheard a young couple struggling to afford an engagement ring. The guy was a veteran, just back from Iraq. They chose a modest ring and left the store. Paul waited until they were gone, then bought the $9,000 ring they really wanted and had the store tell them it was on discount. They didn't find out until 9 years later, after he died. That wasn't a one-off either. He secretly gave over $3.5 million to marine conservation causes, went on shark tagging expeditions with National Geographic, and even dove cage-free with great whites. One of them, a 14-foot female, he named Meadow. He sent his last text 38 minutes before he died. He was heading to a charity event for Typhoon Haiyan victims. He had 500 supply kits packed in the back of his car. He texted his co-founder at Reach Out Worldwide. "Can't wait to help. Bringing supplies for 500 families. We're making real difference." He never made it. His garage was legendary. Always evolving, the custom shop he co-owned with Roger Rodas housed dozens of high-performance machines. After the crash, legal battles erupted over ownership of the cars. Paul's father filed a claim for $1.8 million worth of vehicles. Eventually, Meadow got a $10.1 million settlement. The shop shut down quietly soon after. Then came the auctions. In 2020, 21 of his cars were sold for $233 million at Barrett-Jackson. A rare Alpine White 1995 BMW M3 Lightweight went for $385,000. His custom 370Z from Fast 5 fetched over $105,000. And in 2023, his iconic 2000 Skyline R34 GTR from Fast and Furious 4 sold in Brussels for $1.357 million, becoming the most expensive Skyline ever sold. Meadow inherited his entire $25 million estate. She was only 15 at the time, and her grandmother became her guardian. In 2015, she started the Paul Walker Foundation. It supports marine conservation, environmental work, and youth programs. On what would have been his 52nd birthday, she launched a limited edition shirt to mark the foundation's 10-year milestone. Every dollar went back to the cause. The documentary pulled back the curtain. I Am Paul Walker aired in 2018 and showed who he really was: flawed, impulsive, kind, and haunted. A guy who could lose his temper, who didn't always make the right choices, but who never stopped trying to be better. They showed footage of him tagging sharks, laughing with his daughter, and struggling with who he was supposed to be. His brother Cody kept Reach Out Worldwide alive. In the years since, the team has responded to disasters across the world, from Nepal to Alabama, California to the Philippines. Cody's first mission helped treat 400 cases in just 96 hours. And Meadow, now a model and philanthropist, carries her father's legacy not through words, but through action, just like he did.